I don't know what else to say because that just boggles my mind for that to go on.
Yeah, and for him not to get any, there's a reason why Tutao didn't get support from the Hmong community. Because I'm going to say this, and some law enforcement officers are going to agree with me, and some people are going to agree with me, but there's a nation which we call Scaredy Cat Nation. And the reason why we say Scaredy Cat Nation is because they're scared. They're scared of their own shadows. They're scared because they're not willing to stick their neck out there. So then they don't get in trouble or they don't get repercussions from saying what they believe. Right? And the Hmong community left Tao stranded. Nobody came out and said anything. They just left him be. When it's irrelevant or it's not progressive to what your own goals are, right? And then you're amending that to the Hmong community where the people of power, they're too scared to lose money. They're too scared not to get reelected. They're too scared. So then they're not going to go out there and stick their neck out for what they know deep down inside that's wrong. They're not willing to do that.
I didn't intend on doing any malice or anything like that, or try to hurt anyone. I did the best I thought I could.
To be perfectly honest, after 3 years of reflection, I was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility.
So I wanted to jump into the time when the riots happened. You were still a police officer, right?
Yes.
Tell me about your experience during that time.
So I've never been to war. Okay. I've never been to Iraq. I was never served in the armed forces. But from the coworkers and from my friends that did serve overseas, they said they started to have PTSD back to when they served in Iraq. Because, they were telling me that a third world country, that's what it was, is when after the bombs came down in Fallujah in Iraq and buildings were burning and people were running around the streets, that's what Minneapolis and St. Paul looked like to them. And so to them and the people running around with guns and whatever, just ludicrous, they said that was just what reminded them of Iraq. And so they were having flashbacks to Iraq. And for me, for my experiences, I just couldn't believe that my cities were burning like that. Like, why or how could we let it burn like that? It was tough because we were asked to sacrifice our family time or our time off to come in just to make sure that our guys had backups. And of course, I didn't hesitate. I wanted to come in because I wanted to help and make sure my guys, my coworkers, were home safe too, to their families. So I was willing to come in to stick my neck out there to make sure that everybody was safe. It was hard. It was hard to deal with because of the anti-police things that we got. Bricks being thrown through cars, people spitting at us, kids flicking us off. Kids like 5-year-olds flicking us off, and just the mere chaos. It was chaos. That's the best way to describe it.
Now, how many hours were you doing during that time?
I would say the most would be 16 hours. Okay. And the reason why I say it off the smile is because by law, we're not supposed to work no more than 6 hours a day. But some guys would work longer than that. And then the bosses would just put the hours later. So then the cities went and the county went in trouble, right? Because they needed us. Yeah. And so then they would just be like, all right, we should roll our hours over, or you do 20 today, we'll give you an extra. We'll give you 6 tomorrow. You won't have to work 10 tomorrow. Things like that, because it's busy today or the riots really bad today. Yeah. So then there'll be those things too, because I think that by some labor laws, you're not supposed to work for more than 16 hours.
Were there enough officers to patrol these streets during that time?
No, because it was unsafe for 1 or 2 guys to ride around in a car, because at that point there's so many people that hated police that people would stop you you're stopped at a stoplight. Cars will stop and they'll come out and they'll flick you off and they'll just surround your police car. Because they're unhappy with the police at that time. Right. So everyone's up there saying, fuck the police, and they're just block you in. So patrol cars like marked patrol cars, and it had to have two guys or more or not be driven. And so then some of us were like in vans, some of us were in the SWAT trucks, some of us were drive around civilian looking cars because we didn't want people to know they were the police and then jump out and harass us. It was we didn't. There were so many. There's hundreds of pending calls, hundreds. Okay. Where people were calling in for thefts, auto thefts, whatever it was. If it wasn't in relation to an assault, we didn't respond to them. Okay. Because if it was in a life at risk, we were told not to respond to them. So even if it was a guy running around with a gun, unless he shot someone, we're not supposed to respond. Yeah, because it was just so crazy where the calls are so stacked, where it was we were prioritizing the calls and every single call because we couldn't go to every single one of them. And then when we did go to them, they were so violent, or the description of it, the report was so violent that you just didn't go with two guys. The whole SWAT truck came, the whole vans came. There was like 10 guys on a call, on a simple call, if it was simple. But I'll call like an example, a guy threatening them, they got the gun. And then we would have like 3 or 4 vehicles roll up to the scene, and like 6 cops jump out of one and then 4 cops jump out of one just to deal with this problem and just to clear the area. So it was chaos.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was. It totally was.
And it was like some of the guys that had the SWAT gear, we wore the SWAT gear, right? Where you had the helmet, pads, the rifle plates, rifles, right? And responding to a normal call because we didn't know what we were expecting, because there were like across the country at some point, there was like ambushes where people would purposely fake calls, wait till the cops show up, and then they would shoot them and kill them.
Why didn't you just quit during that time? Why didn't you just say, "Oh, forget it"?
Because I didn't want to give up on the guys I worked with. You know, the camaraderie and the brotherhood is just, I'm not going to give up that day. You know, because if I give up that day, somebody gets hurt, then that's going to be a lot of guilt on my shoulders. So I stuck it out and did the best I could and stayed up and get the sleep that I could sleep and get back out to work.
That is crazy. I had friends that were officers, and they were not just white, they were black officers. And during that time, being a black officer, it seemed like they got the most heat just from the community.
The nickname people call black officers are Uncle Toms. They'll just, like, I had a partner who was, you know, black, and they'd always, every time you go to call, and if we were dealing with, you know, black people, they'd be calling him out Uncle Tom because he was black and in a uniform. And I don't know what it specifically what it means, right? But I guess it's some sort of racial term for from a black person to another about being on the wrong side or something like that. I'm not completely sure on the true meaning to it, but he was always like annoyed with that term when someone else would say it to him, and he was always annoyed. He was pissed off. So I never really got the chance to ask him why.
Did you suffer PTSD?
Yeah, yeah.
And is that the reason why you left the force? Or
Yes.
Okay. Tell me your PTSD experience. I think a lot of people out there don't understand what PTSD is.
Yep. So I think a lot of people that don't understand what PTSD is, and a lot of people like myself at the beginning of it, like it started years before, right? Years before that, and it's one of those like anxiety. I don't know if you've ever had anxiety, or other people having had anxiety or understand anxiety, but it's like the constant racing of the heart, right? And you feel like you're going to have a heart attack for no reason. We could just be sitting here like this, having a conversation. All of a sudden, I start heavy breathing, and then my chest starts going up and down. My chest gets warm, my face gets flushed, right? All of a sudden, it just hits you like that. And that's usually, it's different for a lot of people, but I say it is pretty similar into some of the symptoms. And that's usually how it begins, is anxiety stuff. And then once the anxiety begins, you can't sleep. You can't sleep. So you'll be up for hours on end where you can't sleep because you have those visions, like we discussed earlier, right? Those kids, those people screaming at you, or not even at you, but just screaming bloody murder, or that guy taking a last breath before you see him finally lose life. So it's like these visions come back in your face or in your mind, and then whenever you would close your eyes, you would see them. And then you open your eyes and you get the anxiety attack, right? So it's the constant, and then that was like almost a daily battle. And I would say that a lot of cops, a lot of paramedics, well, firefighters, a lot of first responders go through it. Sometimes people medicate, meaning they self-medicate. They drink a lot, smoke weed, do illegal drugs, or whatever they have to sort of like downplay or like to block out some of the problems that they have. But PTSD is nothing that people may say it's fake. They may sit here and say it's like a label that they don't want to be labeled because they're too macho or tough for it. I would say early on, a lot of guys did do that, where they're too macho and tough to say that they had PTSD. But then now that it's becoming more normalized, and I would almost argue that sometimes it's too overused now. But there are people that have true PTSD that can't sleep or can't eat, or it affects their daily function. And for me, it was daily. It was sleep sucked, couldn't sleep. I wasn't myself. I felt like many times, many days on end, I feel like a zombie, right? Where physically I was awake and I'd be playing with my kids, but it was like a dream. Everything was like a dream because working the night shift didn't help, right? Because you're always tired. And so you're either drinking coffee or you're drinking energy drinks. So then the caffeine messes with your sleep. And then when you're trying to sleep, I never took like sleeping meds or anything, right? But other cops would take like heavy sleeping meds, and they'll knock them out, and then they'll wake up drunk, like feeling drunk because the medication is so strong. So it's like you're medicating on both ends, or you're like either drinking yourself to sleep, or taking meds to go to sleep, and then you get up and you're like, oh, I'm so tired, and then you drink coffee or energy drinks, and then you're trying to function on caffeine. Yeah. So it's a bad cycle.
It is. Straight up unhealthy.
Yeah. So at some point in time, you're gonna crash.
Right.
And I had crashed, and at that point I crashed. Where the other cops, they crashed earlier than I did, or they crashed later. And then PTSD, if it's not treated or if you don't seek out the right help, it leads to suicide. Right. And that's where a lot of law enforcement officers commit suicide, because they can't deal with the problems anymore and they just give up in life. And then they just, we say it, eat their gun. Right. Some cops have done it on duty.
They just,
really?
Yep. They just commit suicide. It's actually, sadly, it's across the country. It's actually once in a blue moon, you do get those where the cops go to work, they put on their uniform and they sit in the squad car and they just like blow their brains out in the squad car. I don't know why. But some guys do that. Some people do that, or some people would go home and be by themselves and they commit it at home. It's a bad cycle. It's bad. And nowadays with this like anti-police thing, right? I don't think it's helping. I think it's going to be many years before it comes back to where police is appreciated again, and maybe it would be another good career to pursue.
I think there's a lot of people that are falling back down on it.
right.
I think we already saw that through the riots where, yeah, don't call the police. And then shit, it's the fan. And then now, where's the police at? I wanted to talk to you about Tou Thao. And with that situation, I think, I believe that he played his job very well because he was doing what he was taught to do. But then other people are seeing it as he should have known better. And he should have said something. And I'm looking at it like this guy, okay, he's resisting arrest. They've done everything they can. There's 3 guys that was on him trying to get him to get in there. And still resisting arrest. And so now they have to do what they have to do. And then Tou Thao still standing there doing his job. 5 years. Do you think that was deserved?
No, I think that's absurd. I think 5 years for a person that didn't even touch George Floyd is absurd. Just from the whole situation to the ending of it, it's like, I'm not saying I was in that type of incident, but I've been in incidents where I had crowd control. I had to control the crowd because you had your partners who you trust, because they're your brothers, to do their job correctly behind you while you watch their back. While you're watching the crowd, you're watching the angry people yell at you and you're telling them, hey, just stand back, let them do their jobs. That is your job, is to protect their backs while they're doing their job. And I've been there many a times, and I'll use the term I am too tall because I've been in those positions before, and to see him go through 5 years and he didn't even touch Floyd, it's one of those like it's crazy to think, right? But the man has served out his time, and he didn't plead guilty because he didn't believe he was guilty. I fully support that. Now, from my own personal opinion, I don't think he was guilty. I don't think so, based upon the facts. He wasn't guilty, even though the media portrayed it differently, and everybody else portrayed it differently. The politician in power portrayed it differently. Just curving people's thoughts differently. To me, it was one of those things where it's like he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that. If anything, he was just trying to do his job, just like everybody else is trying to do their job.
Right. What do you think? Why do you think they actually threw him in there for 5 years? Because the judge said that it was because he didn't show remorse, is what I heard.
Correct.
Which was complete baloney. So what do you think?
Just my own personal opinion. I think that the reason why I think the judge said that he didn't show remorse is because he didn't plead guilty. He didn't plead guilty. He didn't admit to guilt that he did it. And I think I read a segment where Tutal said that he found Jesus or something like that. And that Jesus told him that if you didn't believe that he did it, that he shouldn't plead guilty. And that's why Tutal didn't plead guilty. Believing in Jesus or not, a normal man, right? And a normal person, you got to know what's right and what's wrong, right? And I don't think that it was wrong what he was doing. I think that all the people, politicians and everybody else, cracked under pressure and said, you know what, let's just throw him under the bus because we don't want another riot. We're scared.
Yeah.
We're scared that, more millions of dollars are going to get damaged and that things are going to happen, and we don't want that to happen. So let's just do this, or, okay, I'm going to use a term that is going to ruffle feathers. It's called being the sacrificial lamb. That's what Tutal was. He was the sacrificial lamb. That's all those guys were. He was a sacrificial lamb. He got thrown under the bus to take it, and because Tutal didn't admit guilt, that was not showing remorse. I don't understand, but it makes you really question the justice system and mold together, right? Is it truly justice? I don't think so. I think it's very biased, if anything, especially when it's under political pressure, that people just are too scared because the powers that be that have that power to control a lot of things, money, items, materialistic things, that can basically take your job and your life away. Just like that, people are scared to speak. And there's a reason why I'm not showing my face.
Yeah. Do you know Tutal? Have you ever met him?
I met him immediately after that.
Okay.
Due to the fact that he got fired right away. He didn't have a way to pay his mortgage. So, we were, we met up with him and our own personal money, right? We tried to help the guy because, any of us could have been him.
Yeah.
From anywhere, all over the country, any Hmong officers all over the country could have been him. Because there's a lot of us now, a lot of Hmong cops, and met him right afterwards, and he's a very quiet, humble guy. He's not your big egotistic guy. I think he's tough, comes out here and wants to blast people, and right, that's not him. He's very respectful, soft-spoken. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to me.
It is to me too. And I think I want to say so much things. We're going to be picking a fight. We're not going to be able to. It's going to be a battle and probably not going to be one.
Right.
But I don't know what else to say because that just boggles my mind for that to go on.
Yeah, and for him not to get any, there's a reason why Tutao didn't get support from the Hmong community. Because I'm going to say this, and some law enforcement officers are going to agree with me, and some people are going to agree with me, but there's a nation which we call Scaredy Cat Nation. And the reason why we say Scaredy Cat Nation is because they're scared. They're scared of their own shadows. They're scared because they're not willing to stick their neck out there. So then they don't get in trouble or they don't get repercussions from saying what they believe, right? And the Hmong community left Tutao stranded. Nobody came out and said anything. They just left him be. And our Hmong community, I heard this for the first time after I left, but they said, "Oh, gosh, I'm like, what's that? Right? I never understood that. And Nachu, like that's like a god, or is that what is that? And they're like, "Oh, it's like a leader, like you're wearing a uniform and you're like a leader, like you're someone important." Or was that when Tutao was sitting there? And there was none of that. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything when it's irrelevant or it's not progressive to what your own goals are, right? And then you're amending that to the Hmong community where the people of power, they're too scared to lose money. They're too scared not to get reelected. They're too scared. So then they're not going to go out there and stick their neck out for what they know deep down inside that's wrong. They're not willing to do that.
50 years we've been here in America, and I've seen the traumatic change in the Twin Cities here because Hmong, but yet we still have, it's just like what you said, it's just a scary nation, scary cat nation.
It is a really scary cat nation. I think we're all going we're going in the right direction. I'll say that in general terms, we're going in the right direction, as in the Hmong community progressing forward. We're making a huge impact, right? Worldwide. I mean, we're known worldwide now. That's great. But I wish I had Martin Luther King's quote memorized. But a true man it's goes something like this: a true man is tested when they're under pressure, right? Or not when they're in a place of comfort, right? Yeah. And you put it the best way, because at a place of comfort, of course, it's more convenient, it's more nicer to sit here and say nice things. But when you're put on the spot and you have to speak up for what's right, are you going to do it? Or are you going to sit the fuck down and just bow down?
Exactly.
Right? So,
yeah, we need more. We need more of those people. We need more of those people that are willing to stand up like Tutao.
Yep.
Who said that I'm not guilty. I did my job. Yeah. Where are they at now,
oh yeah, they're nowhere to be found. They're crickets.
And that's one thing that I would love to hear. It's just the stories you guys have experienced and things that have happened to you. And, some of the most heartbreaking moments too.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yep.
I was going to say, too, another idea for you, or maybe you've already done it or already have it in your books, but I think the conversation of what can Hmong men do to help younger Hmong men be more successful in life, right? Because I feel like everyone's like, why are all these Hmong females doing better than Hmong men? Well, because they were back in the homeland. They weren't given these opportunities like here, right? And they weren't. And then now that they have the opportunities here in America, they are taking it and running with it. Right? And that's why you got Sunny Lee or Sunisa Lee. You got, I don't know, the other Hmong women that are excelling. Yeah, right. And it's like the Hmong women politicians, they're excelling, right? And it's just like Hmong men. Not saying that we're not doing. Some of us are doing bad, but they're getting a lot of attention. Yeah, so I think that'd be a great episode for you to maybe in the future to just bring people that are like ideas, like, hey, let's have this open conversation.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we actually started the podcast.
Oh, is it?
It was to empower the men. And then we started it and it turned into more of a educational podcast. Then we realized that, hey, our sisters, they want a voice too. So we brought sisters in. And then now it's just to where it's at. We have brothers and sisters in here.
Yep.
And then still the main objective is to empower the brothers, because we have noticed that there's a big decrease in the boys Hmong boys that are rising up, and
Yep.
then there was also suicide for them too.
Yep.
So that's why Telemong is here.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, we're a little bit I want to say like
Yeah,
There's some
yeah.
of the stuff we say is not really nice.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we're not lying though. We're not trying to sugarcoat shit. So this chapter, I want to ask you a few questions, and the questions that I want to ask you are going to be a little bit off topic. Like they're just going to be like questions after questions. So if you can do your best in answering them,
Yeah.
and just any way you want to answer them too. This is a good question. What is your view on the body cameras?
My view on them is that they're great for what they are. And the reason why I say that is because I started in the era where we didn't have body cameras. And it was based solely on our observations and our memory to what we remember incidents unfolded. It's great that I can, if I don't remember exactly what went down, I can review the camera to be like, oh, that's right. He said this part to me, right? And so I could put it into a report to help with the report. Versus before is if I had bad memory or if I didn't remember anything, I'd be like, I don't remember, so I didn't write it down, So it's great for that. What it's not so great for is the first person view, allowing the public to see it like a movie, right? And then when the public sees it like a movie, they sit there and then go, well, you look at this view, look, there's a sock there. There's a red wire hanging from the ceiling. Okay, if it's something that if it's an incident that's unfolding in front of you, you're not focused on the sock or the red wire or anything else in the person in front of you, right? So you're not really paying attention to what's going around you. It's what we call tunnel vision. And when you have tunnel vision, it's like a match, like a fighting match, right? When in tunnel vision, now you're not thinking clearly, you're not able to see the body movements or the arms or the shoulder movements. Yeah, you're going to get knocked out, right? And it's like that. So cops aren't so good at that when it comes to chaos in front of them. And so the body cameras shows you a great angle, and it's easy for the public to sit there and pick it apart. And they can pick apart one video and in 30,000 ways and be like, why did he do this instead? Well, because it was so fast and the movement so fast that we just react, right, to what's there. And sometimes mistakes are made, right? But those mistakes, I always say this, as a cop, you can go to work, or I'm sorry, as a welder, you go to work, you screw up a weld, right? And the car's rear axle comes off. Okay, you may get in trouble, but you're not going to go to jail. And you're not going to lose your job like a cop who goes to work. And if he says something wrong or doesn't do anything, and he misses one very minor detail, he could go to jail. I'm going to circle back to this. Or if you're standing there doing your job, like what you're told to do, and you're blocking people from coming and disturbing the scene, and yet you get 5 years in federal prison because you're doing your job, yeah, that's being a cop. Those are the differences. Yeah. And a body cam gives you perspective where people don't understand the job and they try to sit there, they pick it apart, right? Like you have the media sitting there go, oh, look at this, look at this. Well, if you've ever watched the media, they pick and choose what they report on, right? They don't sit there and tell you the facts. They tell you what's juicy. So then that way they can draw people to view their
Content.
Yeah, their contents, and then that way they can make money. That's their goal. Their goal is to give out the honest truth out there. It's the body cam does, but the body cam hurts as well, in many ways.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, that's really sad because it's just like what you said. You see it, even on the body cam, when we see it, we don't really see everything.
And it's not easily understood.
Exactly, that's the best way to say it. Mm-hmm.
It's just like, use more example, like how I'm trained or how cops are trained or fires are trained. Mm-hmm. When a person takes their feedback, looks like they take their seat back. What are they doing? Why are they kicking the feedback? Are they kicking me? Are they running towards me? Are they tackling me? What are they doing? Those things could be reminded in a millisecond, right? Uh-huh. And as a fighter and as people that or professional fighters, they're reacting to that before it even occurs.
Right.
And it's the same thing for cops. Is if a guy's holding a gun, do I wait for him to raise it, right? Or do I wait for him to lift a finger or a shoulder? And then I pull my gun out, or I already have my gun out, my gun's on him. It's a millisecond decision. It is that difficult that people don't understand. Yeah. And I like trying to go into a boxing match going, that looks easy. Okay, we'll fight a professional boxer, see what happens.
The best way I could look at it is that one time when I was fighting, I showed it to my uncle and he said, "Why didn't you kick him?" I said, "Don't you see what he's doing? He's looking at my feet. He's waiting for me to kick so he can grab it."
Counter it, yep.
And they didn't see that, but I noticed it when I was doing it. But it's until you're actually feeling and seeing it in there, then you can't really do it.
You have to be in that you have to be in that perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, to be like, oh, this is what I'm thinking. Right. And then, and then, people be like, no, you're lying. No, trust me, you're not lying. I never saw it move before you saw it. Hey, ready? Yeah.
Yeah. Very difficult to explain.
Yes.
That's a good answer. I love that. How has your job changed you as a human being?
My friends as in my former coworkers, I would talk about how the job has taken my innocence. And the reason why I say it's taken my innocence is because things that I used to get excited about, I don't get excited about. When there's chaos that happens around me, I don't freak out. I don't have the same emotions as a normal person would have. Instead, I'm calm, collective, and go, okay, well, it's just a broken leg, right? So to me, I feel like my innocence was taken from me from the job because I had to desensitize myself to be able to accept these difficult roads that I had to navigate. And that wasn't taught. That was self-navigation through the career. And I didn't cry for a long time because that emotion was taken away. I didn't feel like if I let myself cry over a call, that would affect me, right? So I didn't let myself feel. So I didn't until recently, until after I left, began to, obviously through therapy and everything else, talk myself through it where it's like, you want to cry? Cry. It's okay, right? If you're sad, be sad. It's okay. But it's before you became, you built an iron heart. Where we would joke about it. Like any first responder would joke about it. But it'd be like, we can go see a guy get stabbed and his guts and his blood is everywhere. And then joke about it in the squad and go, hey, so we grab spaghetti. Right? But that's a sick humor. Right. But that's how people that's how people deal with that trauma. Okay. Is to joke about it, right? Not in the essence to make fun of the victim, but in the essence of help us cope to make it through that day so we don't let those things bother us. Yeah. But little do they know that over time, that smell of the iron, the screaming, the blood scene, it catches up to you. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's some deep stuff.
Yeah. Sorry.
Have you ever faced something that you just couldn't take it and you hid it until you were alone?
Yes. I
don't want.
No, that's okay. I'll cry here a little bit, but I'm gonna tell you this: that when you're helping people, right? Well, try to help people, and there was a lady I was trying to find. I was 20 yards from her, 20 yards, and I didn't know that she was drowned. She had died. And she was right in front of me. And I know that. And later they told me that she was right there. And she was Mom. She looked like my grandma. So to me, it hurt. At the moment, I didn't cry, right? But after that call and we recovered the body, I cried. Because I was frustrated that I didn't find her right away because I could have saved her. But at the second time, on the second term, it's like, it just brought back memories of my grandma as well. So there's things like that.
I'm so sorry.
All right. It's the reality of the job, and it's tough to speak about it, and it's emotional because people don't understand the passion, right? And if you have a passion in something that's helping people, that's whatever it may be, that's the passion that 99.9% of police officers have. Oh,
I'm just a person on the outside looking in. I think the one that really caught me and I just couldn't get over it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think I could do law enforcement was I remember an officer on duty and he was shot in the neck. And so he called dispatch and he just told them to tell his wife and kids that he loves them. And then he died. That one really got me. So
if you asked me when I started my career, death was worth the service. Now the service isn't worth the death.
yeah.
So you probably was expecting so. Such a. I don't know.
It's there's some things that's why I love talking to law enforcement too. It's because it's something that I don't see. It's something that I don't experience. And I don't think it's something that I will ever experience. And that's why I have a lot of respect for law enforcement because of that. There is the bad ones out there too. There are the ones that take advantage of the badge.
Absolutely.
But the ones that do the right thing and is trying to do the right thing, there's a payment for that.
Yep, absolutely.
What is one thing that you could say to the ones that are going to probably come up into this career? A life advice for
Family first. That's life advice. When you go into law enforcement, I'm not talking about the law enforcement family. I'm talking about your own personal family. Don't skip those birthdays. Don't skip those anniversaries. Don't skip those special moments because you'll never give it back. Get it back. It is a job, but tread very lightly. Do it and do it very professionally, right? Know what you went to that career for, but never forget that you have people at home waiting for you to come home. So make it home every day. And whatever that takes, if that's to do 5 years, he's going to be home with his family soon.
Did you ever lose a friend within the force?
I did. Yeah. So I wouldn't say he was like a close friend, right? But he was somebody that I talked to every day when I went to work.
Mm-hmm.
And he died in line duty. Had a medical condition doing his job, and he died. And it was hard because you were just talking to him, and all of a sudden, next week you guys you're at the funeral in uniform, saluting him. Like, just surreal to believe, right? That a life, and he was young, and that a life so young passed away like that, just the flash of an eye. But you build a barrier, or like I said earlier, iron heart to death, and because you see death probably on a daily, where people are dying everywhere, out of health or accidents or murders or whatever it may be. You're always, first responders are always seeing it. So remember where you came from.
If you could say one thing to the officers that are still in the force, Hmong, American, every race, what is one thing that you would say to them? And this will probably be the last question.
Yep. I would say be safe, number one. Number two, that job is not your life. Your family, your loved ones are your life. Go out there, give it to them, give them what you got. Do your job, do it correctly, but don't be complacent. I always used to carry a wristband with the Thin Blue Line flag on there that said, never give up. And that meant to me, I was never going to give up if I got into a physical fight. I was always going to win, which I did. I didn't lose all physical fight. If I was ever engaged in a gunfight, I would always win. If I ever got into a position where life has given up on me and now he's going to give up on life. Never give up. And I never did give up. And that's why I'm sitting here right now. Because if I would have given up, I wouldn't be here speaking. But I think for those brothers and sisters out there still wearing the uniform, I commend you. I respect you. I am very respectful of the career, even though I'm no longer in it. And I just, I believe that, we all have a calling in our life. And if that's your calling, do it truly, wholeheartedly, and just go home safe.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on to the Telemon podcast today.
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate everything you've said.
My pleasure.
And that will be it for the Telemon podcast today with episode 28, I believe. And I just want to thank Roger for coming on, joining us on Telemon podcast. We will see you guys in the next one. Take care.